What's up, big ballers, shot callers? Big Ken here. Welcome for another edition from the Rim to the Rim Sports Talk Show. I'm joined by my co-host Monty Brown and Dwayne. It's good to
What's
have you back,
up?
Dwayne. It's good to have you back, man.
I'm back,
Hey,
nephew.
good to be back. Good to be back, gentlemen. I missed y'all, missed the program, and I'm ready to get into it, man. I mean, it's hard to believe that it's been a year ago today where
Yeah.
this is where we actually kicked it off on March Madness, and here
Yes,
we
Wow.
are. Here we are a year later talking about March Madness. So I'm
yes,
Here we
ready to
go.
get up in it.
yes.
Yes.
I love it, man. I love that you guys, joined the show with me. We're like the original three, including Jack could be the original four. But yeah, we're the three, that kind of kept this thing going, and I was glad to have you back, Dwayne. We've had a lot of other guests in the meantime. A lot of my fellow football officials, they'll be back maybe for some other rounds of this March Madness, but they're busy right now. But man, yeah, I love doing this show, man. Thanks for doing it with me, fellas. All
Oh,
right,
yes.
let's talk about what we just mentioned. March Madness. This time is here, folks. It's the best,
Yes.
in my opinion. It's the best time of year. This is the best sporting event of the year, in my opinion, maybe besides the Super Bowl. But I love March Madness.
Mm,
Always exciting every year. Always all kinds of crazy upsets. It's what they call it March Madness for a reason. And it's chaos, but it's fun to watch. And you just got to be good at making predictions, man. Knowing basketball and just kind of knowing matchups and things like that. But it's a lot of fun. But last March Madness, I thought was exciting that we all three covered because 3 out of 4 teams. It was their first Final Four. Miami, San Diego State, Florida Atlantic. No one had San Diego State and Florida Atlantic, and if they did, I doubt it. Like maybe like 1%. I don't think anyone would have picked Florida Atlantic and San Diego State to be in the Final Four last year. But San Diego State, played UConn in the championship game last year and lost. So that's another talking point, gentlemen. And mid majors did really well last year. We hit up on mid majors. I know Dwayne was discussing like how well the mid majors were doing because they had a lot of continuity. They've been in college together for a lot longer of a period of time
right.
compared to some of the big Power Five conferences where they don't stick around as long. But the mid major guys, they stick around for all 4 years ago. So their senior years are usually like really, really good and they know each other well. But here's a question for viewers and everything, and Monty and Dwayne. Can UConn repeat? Can UConn win 2 championships in a row? No one has been able to do it except for UCLA back in the 60s and 70s with John Wooden and like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar playing when he was Lou Alcindor. No one's done it since UCLA. I thought someone else had done it, but I looked that up today. No one's done it since UCLA back in the 60s and 70s, man, which is hard to believe. So, do you guys, viewers and Monty and Dwayne, do you think UConn has a chance?
Well, not to spoil my bracket, but I might have told you earlier. I think I texted you earlier. I changed my bracket like 10 times and counting because I know I'm going to change it again after we're done with this show. Man, but I have UConn running it back. I just watched them play the other day, and
They look good.
they have, I don't see a weakness. They're big, they're strong, they're athletic. What one problem I do have with them, they do turn the ball over. Our boy from El Paso, Newton, the
Yeah,
guard,
Tristan Newton.
good
Yeah.
guard, big guard, um, floor general, but does turn the ball over. But that's what guards do. I mean, they're trying to get the team involved, but they have a good shot. I did do some research as well. I thought Florida didn't in the early 2000s repeat, but I'm not too sure. It may have been their basketball team and their football team, but you might be right about that.
I looked it
That's
up. I
tough.
didn't see it because I was thinking the same thing, but I saw they said several teams have been close, but
Yeah.
UCLA was the only one to do it. So other teams got back to the Final Four, but they did not win the whole thing.
Yeah,
So
but like you mentioned, it's tough. I mean, we got the NIL and all that stuff. And one thing about UConn is they reloaded. They didn't lose very much.
no, they
So
did not.
yeah. So like I said, not to spoil it, but I think they can do it.
What do you think, Dwayne?
No, I mean, I definitely have them in my Final Four.
Yes.
And I have them the closest to repeat. Right now, the way Tristan Newton and Cam Spencer are playing, I mean, it's hard to argue that, these guys came back on a mission. But I will say this. I don't know if I think it's arguable if they have the toughest road to get back to the Final Four.
Yes, they do.
But they do have one of the toughest roads to get back to the Final Four. And the way I've seen them, they ain't blown a whole lot of people out. A lot of people, I believe, in my opinion, just caught on to them, and just played them up and played them well. But of course, as dominant as they are, they were able to pull out the wins. But they just, for me, as compared to last year, they just impose as dominating as it is, and it's no different than any team when they don't have a lot of tape on you or whatever, or or what kind of program you kind of build out to be, later on down the line. But I'm sure a lot of people got tape, and I'm sure a lot of other schools recruited well, and a lot of people were able to play them well this year, especially in the Big East. So I have them definitely with one of the hardest paths to get back to the Final Four, but I have them getting back to the Final Four. But it's going to be tough. I mean, they have the potential to run into people like Northwestern, Auburn, Illinois with Shannon and the way them boys are playing. Goodness gracious.
Iowa
so
State
at the end of the day, it's not going to be easy. And I can promise you, if they run into Auburn, they're going to make it tough. Bruce Pearl's team is going to D up and clamp up on them. If they run into Illinois, then Shannon and them boys can stroke that ball like it's nobody's business. Guard. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's we're going to see, I think, in this Final Four, I'm predicting a lot more close games, a lot more buzzer beaters, and a lot more heartbreaks than as compared to last year.
Yeah, it's going to be another good one, I think. I'm with you, Dwayne. I got UConn in my Final Four also, but I don't have them winning the whole thing. I think they'll get close, but it's just very hard to do. If they do it, congrats to them. That'd be amazing. I won't be upset at all. That'd be something really cool. But it'd be good for obviously talking points for sports and stuff like that to do it, to be the first team to do it since UCLA. So that'd be cool. But I think it's going to be hard, real hard.
It's always harder the second time around.
Yeah, because like you said, people know you. People got your people. Yeah, people. Now you got a target on your back, man. So
yeah, it always is. Yeah. It always is.
I agree.
All right, let's hit Purdue really quick before we go into another subject. Will Purdue lose in the first round again 3 times in a row? They've done it 2 times in a row. I thought last year was 3 times in a row, but actually, their third year, they actually made it to the 3 years ago. They actually made it to the Sweet 16 and lost to the 15 seed St. Peter's. I thought that was a first round game because since St. Peter's was a 15 seed, but that was not. St. Peter's actually beat them in the Sweet 16 when they were a Cinderella team. St. Peter's went to the Elite 8, so that's why I thought Purdue had lost 3 times in a row, but they have not been very good. I personally think I think they'll get past the first round, but I don't have them getting much farther because I think they have the exact same problem as last year. I don't think their guard play is very good. Their guards did come back, so they're a year older. The one guy was a freshman last year, Lloyd or something like that, but he's a sophomore. He's a little bit better, and they have a junior guard that's pretty feisty. But the problem I see with Purdue is they just don't have I don't think they have a dog. To will them to a win, like what you saw, like little Kansas State's guard do last year. Like that guy was going to will them to a win. I don't think Purdue has that. That happened last year where they were struggling and they had no one to turn to. I think it's going to happen again. And another thing is they don't have a good wing player. They have no wing at all. They have a couple good guards, and of course they got Zach Edey, the big man. He might win the Player of the Year 2 years in a row, but I
think he will.
But he can score 30 points, 35 points a game. 35 points a game, they could still lose. So because that's kind of what he did last year. I just think their guards and their forwards are not good enough. They're not athletic enough. So I think they're going to get beat. That's my thoughts. What do you got on that, Monty?
Yeah, they're going to have some trouble. They're going to. I think they'll struggle against Utah State. They're going to beat them. Utah State's coming from a conference that the Mountain West, 6 teams from that conference, 6. New Mexico, Colorado State, San Diego State, all good teams. Living here in Roswell, seen New Mexico play a lot. They're good. Seen them play Utah State. These are good teams, but it's got to give them some trouble. I do have them beating Utah State barely, and I have them losing to Gonzaga in the Sweet 16. So I think they'll get past the 2 rounds.
What do you got, Dwayne?
No, I got them going all the way. I have them. I have them in my Final Four. And it may change because I have them running into Tennessee, and the way Dalton Connect is playing, goodness gracious, man, that dude is, almost averaging like dang near 30 points a game. But the one surprise team that I have Purdue running into some problems with is, and you guys are gonna throw your eyebrows up at this, but I have McNeese State. They're running into McNeese State. I mean, I want you to look at their stats. I mean, we're talking about these boys put up almost 80 points a game. These boys have been dominant in their conference.
Yeah, they're the 12 seed.
They're talking about almost 30 wins. They went 30 and 3.
30 and 3. Yep.
And I have these boys. I may go for the upset. I may go for the upset as the first number 1 to come out. But right now, I think Purdue has enough in their conference to get there. But it's going to be hard if they end up running to if they run into Tennessee, because Tennessee is just, them boys put points up on the board, and when I say quick, they put it up quick. There's no delaying with them. Barnes had these boys playing, and I mean, who would have thought the star Dalton Connect as the number 1 dude come out in the transfer portal, and he's been showing out for Tennessee. I mean, this dude is just blew up into from almost a no name to the biggest name in college basketball. So big ups to Tennessee for that pickup, and he's blossomed ever since. So I think Purdue and Tennessee, once they meet Tennessee, that's going to be a coin flip, because Tennessee is not going to make it easy with Dalton Connect playing the way they're playing. So, but I have Purdue actually running into issues with McNeese State, man. I mean, them boys, golly. I mean, they're very.
You'll be right. They lost to a really small team last year.
And I'm talking about upset. So I have McNeese beating Kansas. Kansas is not the same looking team that they had.
Oh,
they not at the beginning of the
year.
And
their big man going to play, Hunter Dickinson. He got hurt.
They suffered some injuries now. To their credit, they've hung on, and they would have been able to pull out some nice wins. But man, I mean, we're talking about where teams start ranking it up a notch, and these are teams that are about to surprise some people, and I have McNeese State as one of them. McNeese as one of them. So I mean, I have them knocking off Kansas. I have McNeese knocking off Gonzaga, and I have them meeting up with Purdue. And I think that's kind of where things come to a halt for me. But well, you want to. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there, man. You keep an eye on that name.
I like you put it out there. I'm going to watch them.
I'll be watching out.
You got me intrigued.
Very, very.
We'll be watching.
But I asked this question. I said this last year. I'm going to say it again because Purdue has lost 2 times in the first round, like I said earlier. But last year I said, can they be like Virginia and bounce back? Because Virginia was the first number 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed. Then the very next year they ran the table and won everything. I was thinking Purdue might do that. That's why I picked Purdue to win the whole thing last year, and they disappointed me. Obviously, in the very first round, my bracket was busted in day 1. I was so disappointed. I do think they'll do a little bit better, but I got them going out in the Sweet 16 like Monty, but not against the same team. But I got them getting to Sweet 16, so that'll be an improvement for them. But my question is more about. I'll get on to another subject soon, but my question is more about Matt Painter. I know he's a good coach. He's been there 20 years. They've had some success in the tournament before the past couple of years. He's been to a couple of Sweet 16s. I think they went to like 1 or 2 Elite 8s with him. I know one for sure, like several years ago they did. So he has had a little bit of tournament success, but my question would be, if they go out in the first or second round, will this man still have a job? I don't know, because I feel like you got to obviously you don't want to fire a guy like too quickly, but he's been there 20 years, but is 3 times in a row, like baseball analogy, 3 strikes you're out. Like it's losing like 3 times in the first or second round. Is that gonna be enough for the Purdue, athletic director to give him the boot? So I think he's got a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah, that's a good question because that's a long time to go without advancing with a team like that, expecting to get to the Final Four. Maybe not win it all, it would be tough, but to at least get to the Final Four.
Yeah.
Being ranked that high all season long, 3-4 years in a row, what have you, and to get ousted in the first couple of rounds every time like that. So yeah, I think his job's on the line if they lose early.
I think it's in their heads. I think they're going to come out nervous the first game. I think they'll win it, but I think it is going to be very close because I don't think they're going to dominate. I think they're going to be nervous. They're going to be thinking about it in their head. And the closer it is, the longer it is where it's close, I think they're going to get more and more nervous. If they don't get like a big double digit, like 15, 16, point lead, in the second half, I think they're going to be very nervous. If it's like a 5-point game to go with 5 minutes to go, I think they're going to be very nervous. So it'll be interesting to see how that will play out. Because I think it'll be in their heads completely.
Well, maybe so. You're probably right, but I think I've seen enough of Purdue this year to think that they're ready to make a run.
Yeah, they want to avenge themselves. Yeah.
I mean, Zach Edey, he's one of the most dominant big men I've ever seen.
He's great. Yeah,
in a while, and if you look at this man, his footwork.
Oh yeah,
how he moves, how he stays, how he does what he can to stay out of foul trouble. Mean, a rebounding machine. I mean, he's almost unstoppable. I mean, you got to literally plan to double team him and triple team him the minute he gets the ball. I mean, and that's what teams do. If you see how when he gets positioned and when he gets that ball, it's an automatic clamp. But he's so quick and so finesseful with a hook shot or with a nice floater or with a jump or quick, quick layup. I mean, he's very good. And so he's very much improved. And as a player of the year, you have a lot of expectations, as compared to past years, and the way Braden Smith is playing, him and Edey are forming a nice.
Yeah, Braden Smith is regarded kind of like Lou the dog. Yeah, the lawyer guy's a sophomore, but yeah,
right. And if he gets that 3-point stroke going,
he's dangerous.
They'll cause problems. So I mean, I think Purdue has enough to I mean, they played in one of the toughest conferences.
They do.
So
the Big Ten
they're and they've shown out, and so I got to give their credit. They're a number 1 seed for a reason. So yeah. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, my only issue is you're right. They play in the Big Ten, which is one of the best basketball conferences, if not the best. Maybe not this year, but they're always up there. But You're right. But the thing is, they have a good regular season every year, but then they just kind of struggle in tournament. I hope they do squeak it out.
Well, I mean, if they don't go in underestimating their opponents, you know what I'm saying, and go in with a dominating mentality like they try to do in every game, then
they need a dog. Yeah, they need to play.
But if they go in underestimating these teams and not trying to, pull the trigger early on these jokers, then they're going to run into some trouble. But let's be clear. Their path towards the Final Four ain't that easy either.
No,
I have them running into,
I think they're the toughest bracket.
No, I think so too. So too. And that's what I'm saying. They're going to run into McNeese State, in my opinion, you know what I'm saying? TCU, their backcourt has been known to give some big problems, over here in Fort Worth, so I mean, because I had them beating Utah State. Now that may change, what I'm saying? That may change because Utah, I agree. Utah is a very tough team as well. Yeah. But I have them.
Everybody in that conference.
Pulling out. Yeah, I mean, goodness gracious, man. I mean, great Osabor. I mean, wow, this boy is a beast. But yes. I mean, but the question becomes, who else do they have outside of him?
Yeah,
and that's my biggest question with Utah State. So but I think Purdue, if they don't underestimate their opponents and go in there and kill these games, they'll be fine.
Okay, I hope you're right, because I'm kind of want them to do well. I like them. Yeah. They're a Big Ten team. I want them to do well. Well, let's get into another Big Ten subject. Michigan coach Juwan Howard, part of the Fab Five, got fired this week. In some ways, I'm shocked. In some ways, I'm not. In some ways, I thought he deserved another year because he lost a lot of key players. He lost Hunter Dickinson to Kansas. His son, Jet Howard, went to the NBA. Their other really good forward went to the NBA. So he had two guys leave to the NBA last year. Then Hunter Dickinson transferred. So he lost his three best players. So some people could think it's unfair because of that reason alone. But the reason why they're saying he's being fired, from what I read, is because they just don't think he was doing a good job with player development. So that's why the Michigan athletic director fired him. I read Juwan Howard put out a statement. He was very gracious. He handled it with class. He said he's thankful for the 5 years that he did coach Michigan. They had success. They had back-to-back Sweet 16s, one Elite Eight appearance. Last year they went to NIT. This year they were horrible, like 8 wins and like 24 losses. They were pretty bad. One of Michigan's worst probably seasons ever. But he just didn't have. Yeah, I could see the player development side. His starting five was okay, but they had no one on the bench. That was their biggest problem. It was like when the starting five wasn't in, they struggled. 'Cause I didn't watch all their games, but I watched a couple, and I watched them play their rival, Michigan State. They're in it in the first half and in it most of the game, but they just don't have they don't have enough. So I'm kind of on the fence about, but like I said, Juwan Howard handled it with class, just saying that he was grateful. Michigan's always going to be a part of him because he went to the Fab Five. So, I mean, he was a Fab Five. He went to back-to-back, he went to back-to-back Final Fours, So he said he's always going to be a Michigan man. So he handled it well. But I'm kind of, like I said, I feel bad for him, but I see why they did it. But I wish him well. I hope he picks up something else. I think he's a good coach. I think he can coach somewhere else. I hope someone else picks him up. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Well, I would have liked to have seen him being, coach, playing for that team to coach it to success. Maybe it was recruiting. Maybe with the front office, they didn't see eye to eye with this recruiting. I mean, just didn't bring in enough players to reload. And as we know, Michigan in the past, they reloaded. They had good players year after year. And maybe they just wanted to see go in a new direction, new blood. I'm not worried about Juwan Howard at all. I think he might even go coach in the NBA, be an assistant, maybe eventually be a head coach there. But yeah, as far as him getting the job, I'm surprised no one's called him right now. So no, he'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. Let's talk about bracketology real quick before we get into our picks. So bracketology, for those of you who are new to what March Madness and what bracketology is, basically bracketology is how the brackets are broken down and the winning percentages of each bracket. Like the 1 seed is always going to play the 16 seed, 2 is going to play the 15, 3 is going to play the 14, 4, 13, so on and so forth. So that's bracketology, but there's winning percentages in each bracket. So there's some brackets to look out for, so to speak. The number 1 upset in the first round, a lot of people think it's the 5 and 12 seed. I thought that until I looked it up, but like I told my friends here, it's actually the 6-11 seed. The number 11 seed has a 38.16 winning percentage. They've won 58 games so far in March Madness, when March Madness been around, since they've had 64 teams, which started in 1985. Yes, March Madness went to 64 in 1985. Originally, it started with only 8 in the 1930s. Believe it or not, it's grown significantly. The second highest upset is the 5-12, like everyone probably thought was the first one. That has a 34.87 win percentage. That's high for a 12 seed to beat a 5. And they've won 53 games so far in March Madness since it went to 64 teams. The number 3 upset is the number 4 seed versus 13 seed, 21%, 21.05 to be exact. And the reason why I'm giving you guys this information is like, if you haven't filled out your brackets yet, you have something to look at, like pay attention.
Yeah.
That's what bracketology is. You got to pay attention to the seedings. You got to pay attention to the teams, who's hot, who's not, all that good stuff. The number 2 seed has only lost 11 times, but more than the number 1 seed. They have number 15 seed only has a 7.24% winning chance, but the 15 seed has beat the 2 seed more than the number 1 seed. The number 16 seed has only beat the number 1 seed 2 times. One was last year, Purdue, which we're talking about earlier in the show, and 5 years ago, or actually 6 years ago now, in 2018, Virginia lost. They were the first number 1 seed to ever lose first round game. So that's kind of bracketology in a nutshell, how to kind of see things. And another fact is the number 1 seed has won 12 out of the last 16 tournaments. So number 1 seeds have won 75% of the time the past 16 years. So number 1 seeds still dominate. And there's only been 4 times in March Madness history where the number 1 and number 2 seeds did not make the Final Four. 4 times. And one of them was last year. We had no number 1 and 2 seeds in the tournament last year. So number 1 and number 2 seeds dominate. But the trick is which number 1 and number 2 seeds do you pick to get into the Final Four?
Yes.
Because some number 1, number 2 seeds are going to go down. You just don't know which ones. That's the whole thing. That's why they call it. That's why they call this March Madness, man. Because you'll know who's going to win and who's going to lose. It gets crazy, man. So you got to be good at picking upsets in March Madness. If you're good at picking upsets, you might win whatever league you're in, whether it's money or just for bragging rights, whatever the case may be. But that's bracketology. Do you guys got anything to add to that?
Hey, man, good job on that research. You surprised me there. I would have thought the same thing, the 5 to 12 seed. But wow, as a matter of fact, not even thinking about it, so you brought this up. I have 3 out of the 4 11 seeds winning.
So do I.
Just without thinking about that.
Almost the same one. So do I.
New Mexico.
Yeah, New Mexico. I got New Mexico.
Yeah.
One of them.
Yeah, that's crazy. I have the only one I don't have win.
Wow.
I have NC State. I mean, they're the hottest team right now. So
yeah, they're very hot. That was a no-brainer for me. I was like, they're on fire. If they lose in the first round, I'll be shocked. I mean, they can, but they're on fire right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest question surrounding them as an 11 seed, because I believe Texas Tech is going to give them all they can handle.
Right. You're right.
Everybody cranks it up a notch. But the question is, you got to think about it. NC State is the hottest team right now, one of the hottest teams going right now. I agree. But right now, the question is, are they mentally ready after winning 5 straight?
Yes.
Winning conference, and now you got to play. Now you got to come in and play the big boys. It shows that you're ready to play, but do you have enough time to be ready after the gauntlet that you went through to get to this point? So that's where I stand with them. And unfortunately, I don't have them advancing. I have Texas Tech winning. I have them beating with Kentucky. But I do have an 11 seed. I have about 3 out of the 4 11 seats advancing. I have Duquesne. I have Duquesne passing up BYU, meeting up with Illinois. I do have New Mexico winning. New Mexico has been very dominant, and I don't want people to underestimate them, as you alluded to earlier. And then, I got Oregon. I know that is going to be. They won the Pac-12. That is going to be one tough game in the first round. I mean, I don't think people realize how tough that Oregon and South Carolina game is and how good it's going to be. But it's going to, I think these teams match up very well. Yes. But the way from Oregon, Dante and Quiznard have been playing, goodness gracious. Man, they are matchup nightmares. Now I don't want to take anything away from South Carolina and Michi Johnson and Mack and how they've been playing, but man, they're about to meet their match. This should be a very, very good game.
Yes.
I have it as one of my biggest first round games too. We can talk about it later. Interesting first round matchups. That's definitely one I have circled because the way I saw Oregon play in that championship game, they look good. And their big man is a freaking beast.
Oh, yes, he
He's
is.
healthy. If he's
Yes, he is.
healthy,
Yes, he
they're
is.
right. But when he's not in the game, they're
He
not
is a
very good.
rebounding machine. He is a
He's a rebound
rebounding
machine and he
machine.
can score. But when he's out of the
Wow.
game, they struggle. But when he's in the game, they look really good.
Yeah.
He has to stay out of foul trouble. That's his thing.
That's the only thing. But if he
Yeah.
can, woo,
He can. They're right.
look out. Look out.
All right. So let's get into the first four. So the first game I got is Colorado versus Boise State. They're either playing tomorrow or Wednesday. The first four games are played on Tuesday and Wednesday. Then the first rounds are Thursday and Friday. I got Colorado beating Boise State because even though Colorado lost to who we're just talking to, Oregon, Colorado is a very good team. That Pac-12 championship game was a very good game. That was very, very entertaining. One of the better games of the day, in my opinion. And Colorado has a lot of really good guards. They have a good big man themselves. Not quite as good as Oregon's, but he's decent. And they have a squad. But I really like their point guard. Their point guard is tough, man. He's a dog. Like he can get the job done. Like he looks for his shot. He also gets his teammates involved. Like that, I think Colorado's got that one. Who do you got in that one, Monty?
Yeah, man, I'm pulling for that Mountain West Conference just because they have so many teams in there. But yeah, I've seen that last Colorado game, and they're a tough team. Boise State's gonna have their handful. So yeah, I'm picking Colorado in that one.
You got any preference on this, Dwayne?
I got Colorado. I got Colorado as well. I mean, they've shown that they can be a very dominant team on both ends of the court, and I'm daring people to underestimate them because I've kept up with them quite a bit throughout the season, just kind of looking in on them from time to time, and they got it. They got what it takes to make some noise, and so it's just all about the willingness. So
Colorado has a couple NBA picks, in my opinion, coming up in the next year or two. They're guard for sure, but they have a couple they have like 2 or 3 guys. Even the commentators saying that in the Oregon game, they have like 2 or 3 guys that can go to the NBA the next year or so. They're good. The next big game is I think we lost Dwayne for a second, but I think he'll come back.
Yeah.
We'll keep going, Monty. The next big game is Virginia and Colorado State. I got Virginia winning it, but Virginia won't get very far. The one thing we all know they have is they have a really good defense. But like I mentioned last year, is even though Virginia won the whole thing 5 or 6 years ago after they lost in the first round, they don't have a good offensive game that is very good for the tournament. That's why there's always upset alert around Virginia, because they don't score enough points, and the other team is always in it, and that is a recipe for disaster when you're in a close game with 5 minutes or less to go. Another team feels very confident that they can win the game. So I got Virginia this one, but Colorado State is no slouch. I haven't seen them play, but record-wise, they're 24-10, so that is pretty good. And Virginia is 23-10, so it seems like it's an evenly matched game record-wise. But I still got Virginia just because they're in a Power 5 conference, and I think they're going to be a little bit better.
Yep.
I think I got them.
Okay.
What do you got, Monty?
Yeah, I picked Virginia as well. I watched them play Carolina. I watched them beat Carolina at Virginia, which Carolina always has trouble beating them there. Just based on who Virginia has to play in that conference, it's going to be tough for Colorado State to beat that team. Yeah, I know Colorado State's another one of those Mountain West teams I've been talking about, but it's just going to be too tough of a matchup. I think Virginia's going to be too much for them. So yeah, I have Virginia beating them.
Okay. Yeah, same here. Dwayne had technical difficulties. He might try to rejoin us. If not, no worries, Dwayne, but hopefully you can get back, Dwayne. And Dwayne, jump in. Don't worry if you miss anything. Just jump on right back on in, Dwayne. So The next two games aren't as big, but we'll cover it since we're doing the first four. It's Grambling State, Montana State. I don't know anything about any one of these two teams, but
yeah.
honestly, I'm just going record wise. Grambling has the better record at 20-14, and Montana State is 17-17. So I'll go Grambling, but I really don't have much of a say on that. I'm going to straight off records, man.
And they're both 16 seeds, right? No matter who wins.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I don't see either one of those teams.
No, they're not going to do anything after they win this game. No disrespect to them. I know they want to get in, and
Right.
good for them for getting this far. And whoever wins, they will be in March Madness. So good for them.
Yeah.
I don't want to take anything away from them, but yeah, they're going to have a very tough time against the number one seed. And the same thing for the next game, Howard and Wagner. They're both 16 seeds. I got Howard winning it because Howard's been in March Madness a lot. I don't know anything about Wagner, so I got Howard just for the straight fact that I know Howard's been in March Madness before, so that's why I got Howard. So
I've seen Howard in this tournament before, and they're usually one of the lower teams as well. So I have them winning as well. I don't know anything about them at all, but yeah, I picked them to win.
All right. So next subject, we'll talk about some interesting first round matchups. But before that, we'll go over who our final four choices are for myself and Monty. And then we'll get into some interesting first round games. But so here's my final four. And I had some of the brackets were really easy, but I struggled with the Midwest bracket so much. I couldn't figure out who was going to get it in the Midwest bracket. I just could not make up my mind, but I finally did. And it's probably a crazy choice, going to surprise a lot of freaking people. I doubt you and Dwayne have that. I doubt other people will have it, but I'm going on a limb. But I got Florida upsetting Houston in the Elite Eight. I got Florida. I don't think Houston can do it. And that's one thing I forgot to mention. Sorry, Dave. Dave couldn't join us, one of my fellow football official buddies. He told me to say on a text message that Houston's not going to do it. Like Ralph Sampson's not a big game coach. He told me to say that since he couldn't join. He was supposed to join, but he got assigned a softball game last minute, a girls' softball game. So he's doing softball right now. But he said Houston's not going to do it. He's like, Ken, make sure you mention that. So I did. I do think Florida's hot now. I know that's crazy. That's one crazy pick I got is Florida. That's the South bracket.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah, there are 7 seed, but 7 seeds have been in before. So I got Florida. The other one is more what everyone thinks. The other one's UConn. In the East, I got UConn. The West, I got yours and Dwayne's boys, North Carolina, making it into the Final Four. And then the Midwest, like I said, where I had a really hard time figuring this one out, man. I jumped around so many freaking times. At first, I had Tennessee, but then I said, well, Tennessee's never been in the Final Four. They've only been to the Elite Eight once. You know, that was with Bruce Pearl in 2010.
That's right.
So I had them, but that was my first gut check pick, and maybe I should have stuck with it, but I changed it. But I could be wrong because maybe Tennessee will finally get over this hump and do it. But I did change it, so I apologize, Tennessee. If you do it, good on you. But I changed it to Creighton. I got Creighton as my other Final Four. Creighton was close last year. They lost in the Elite Eight, a buzzer beater to San Diego State on a very questionable call that me and Dwayne were both discussing when the two of us were just doing that show. I think you were out of town and Jack wasn't around either. So it was just me and Dwayne doing the Final Four show. We both talked about that game. And yeah, there was a call at the end of the game which allowed they called a shooting foul on Creighton, which was a questionable call. And the San Diego State guy went to the free throw line. He sunk both free throws with like a second to go, and they won the game. So, but Creighton was very close. And the reason why I got them going back is because they have all the same players returning. You know, they got their big man, Brenner. They got their guard, Alexander. They got number 55. Can't remember what his name is, but he's a really feisty dude that plays the wing. I know his name. I just can't think of the top of my head. I know he's number 55. They have their big three all coming back. Couple of good players off the bench. There's some nice role players. I got Creighton, Florida, UConn, North Carolina, and overall I got the championship game. I got North Carolina versus Creighton, and I got North Carolina, your boys, winning the whole thing.
Man, I hope you're right. Man, I just couldn't pick Carolina. I've watched them every chance I can get this year, and they do have some weaknesses. One key is Armando Bacot has to stay out of foul trouble. I mean, That's the key. He's
Yeah.
one of their best players. He's a defensive player. Actually, it's gonna be tough. They have a tough road to get there. I have them losing to Alabama, I think, in the Sweet 16, but I hope I'm wrong. I'm gonna do two brackets where I'm gonna have them winning it. One for this one's I'm going with my head. I'm gonna do another bracket, go with my heart, and that's gonna do it North Carolina.
Right.
But my final four is this. Like I said earlier, I do have UConn winning it all. Do I have them playing in the West? I said I would never do this, and that's just pick Arizona to get this far.
They might bounce
They
back
upset me
last
every year.
after their first round loss. They're like that. They have one really
Yeah.
good year and they have one bad year. So
Yeah. But just looking at the matchups, I don't see them losing up to that point. Teams that they shouldn't lose to. So I don't know. I have UConn playing Arizona. I do have Houston from the South. Creighton scares me because of that offense. They live and die by the three, and they can get cold at any time.
yeah, that's the bad thing about them. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. So for UConn, Arizona, Houston, and Creighton to battle it out in the South and Midwest matchup, and I have UConn to run it back.
Yeah, I agree with Creighton does live and die by three, but they got their big man though, so that's the reason why I kind of got them over the edge. But you're right, they do shoot too many threes. It drives me crazy. But
yeah,
they got so close last year, and they have a good guard that can also drive the hole. The Alexander kid, he can get any shot he wants, so he doesn't have to rely on the 3-point line. So
yeah.
if he is cold from 3-point line, they can drive. He can score 2-pointers. Coldburn can definitely score 2-pointers on the inside, and number 55 is kind of a driver slasher too, their third guy. So if they all go from a three, I think they could still win in other ways. That'll just be a really grinder game where they got to squeak one out in a close game if they're not hitting their threes. But if they're hitting their threes, they can blow people out.
Yeah.
But I got North Carolina beating Arizona in the Elite Eight. So you got them losing. I got Arizona getting to Elite Eight. Like I gave them a little bit of credit. Even though they lost in their first round last year to Princeton, I gave them a little bit of credit. Like I think they'll bounce back a little bit this year. But I still don't got them going to the Final Four. But you might be right. So we'll see who's right between me and you. But you're right. North Carolina's big man does get in foul trouble. I've seen that. But he's just like Oregon's big man. If he's in the game and he's playing well, I think they'll be okay. And I think North Carolina's kind of team that they have a lot of depth. I mean, you know them better than I do, but they have a lot of depth. So that I think will help them out too, even if he does get in some foul trouble. That's why I got them going to the Final Four. And they're due. They haven't been to the Final Four in a long time. Last year they didn't make the tournament. So
Goal for Hubert Davis, man. Used to play for that team. I'm a big fan of his, so I hope they do well.
Yeah, I like Hubert Davis too. I think he's a good coach, former player. I also like Juwan Howard, former player from Michigan. I'm glad he's at his alma mater. That's really cool.
Yeah.
For UConn, I got Iowa State making a deep run because Iowa State is absolutely on fire now. They beat the crap out of Houston in the championship game. They beat Baylor in the semifinals, crap out of them.
Yeah.
They are hot, but that's gonna be a good matchup as the UConn Iowa State game in the Elite Eight. That's what I got for the Elite Eight on that side, and I think UConn will squeak it out. But that's gonna be a game.
Man, Iowa State is a team nobody wants to play right now. And man, I watched them thoroughly. I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, and I was impressed.
Yeah,
they're going to be tough. I mean,
they
could be a one seed. Yeah.
Their only problem is, and the same thing with like the other hot teams like North Carolina State, is they're not playing right now. When you're hot, you want to keep on playing. They have like a 3 or 4 day break, and they're like, shoot, we need to keep on playing. But at the same time, your body needs a rest, and you can't keep on playing every single day the way those guys run up and down the court for 40-plus minutes a game. I mean, they need the rest, but at the same time, you don't want to get too much rest where you might like lose your rhythm. So, but hopefully none of those teams do. But let's get into some interesting first-round matchups before we close. So Dwayne mentioned it earlier, so we'll start with the Midwest bracket. But yeah, that Oregon-South Carolina game that Dwayne said, that I had that one circled. That is going to be a freaking game, man.
Yes.
I got Oregon. I have Oregon winning. I don't know who Dwayne said, but I got Oregon winning it.
Yeah, South Carolina's tough, but I seen Oregon in their tournaments, excuse me, and yeah, they're man, that might be a buzzer beater there. And that's that 11 seed matchup that I was talking
Yeah,
about. We have 1 6 seed winning, and that's I think Duquesne will lose to BYU. But yeah, I have Oregon win this one. Yeah, that's going to be a matchup to see.
yeah. Um, well, wait, let's shift gears. We can talk about the 5-12s. Yeah, I know you mentioned it briefly. So I only have something since we talked about it in bracketology too. So I got only 1-12 winning. I was trying to pick a second one, but I just couldn't see it. The 1-12 that I have
Yeah,
upsetting is I have UAB upsetting San Diego State. I know San Diego State's
that's
tough.
a good one. I should have thought of that.
I got UAB. That might sound crazy, but or the reason why I say that is because I still know obviously San Diego State is very good, so I'm not surprised if I'm completely wrong. I don't think they're gonna make another Final Four run. Put it that way. I'm not saying they can't win a couple of games and get to like Sweet 16, but I think they're gonna have an early exit, man. I just do because I just think they're not gonna be able to do what they did last year. That's why I kind of picked UAB. That might sound crazy. I'm probably one of the very few people who got that. People probably got other 5-12 upsets, but that's the one I picked. The St. Mary's Grand Canyon game, I think St. Mary's is too strong, so I picked St. Mary's. The 5-12 in the Midwest is McNeese and Gonzaga. I know Dwayne mentioned McNeese, but
Yeah.
I don't know much about them. I don't see Gonzaga losing in the first round. I mean, they're not as good as what they've been in the past. They weren't even ranked in the top 25 for certain parts this year, but they're still a good team, got a good coach. This is their 25th year in a row making the NCAA tournament, which is freaking amazing. But Dwayne could be right. I'm gonna try to pay attention to that game since Dwayne mentioned it. But I still got Gonzaga pulling that one out. And another 5-12 matchup: Wisconsin, James Madison. James Madison's been there before, but
Yeah.
so I almost picked that one. I almost thought James Madison might be able to upset Wisconsin, but then I thought about like, no, Wisconsin's playing too freaking good right now. They made it to the Big Ten championship game. They barely lost to Illinois. I was like, Wisconsin is not going to lose in the first round. And Wisconsin always seems to be a good tournament team. They're one of the better teams in the Big Ten. Always seems to make runs in March Madness. So that's what I got for 5-12.
I'm smiling because I like this James Madison team. I have them to upset. Well, not necessarily an upset. It's a 5-12, but I have them beating Wisconsin.
They might.
Here's my upset. I also have them beating Duke to go to the Sweet 16. That's my
wow, that's a big upset.
Yes. So
I got Wisconsin beating Duke.
Oh wow. So we'll see how that goes there, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, I got Wisconsin going to the Sweet 16. Yeah, I got Wisconsin upsetting Duke, man. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I think Duke are busters again. They're not playing good ball right now at the end of the year, and I think they're going to lose early. So
no, man, this James Madison team's no joke. I've seen them.
Yeah, I know they're good. I know that, and they've been in March Madness plenty of times. I know.
Yeah, so we'll see how that pans out between our picks. That's going to be interesting.
They are 31-3, but I think Wisconsin's playing really good ball in a hard conference, and they have their confidence back. You know, Wisconsin did good the first half of the year. Then they went on this like 10 or 12 game stretch where they sucked and they fell at top 25. They lost like 8 out of 10 games or 7 out of 10. Like they fell apart. But then the last like 4 or 5 games of the Big Ten and in the Big Ten tournament, they finally got it back together like the last like 7 or 8 games of the year. So I think they're kind of back. That's why I have them squeaking it out. But I did think about James Madison. Like I said, I almost picked it. That was almost my second upset. I was about to pick it. But then maybe some of it's my loyalty to the Big Ten too. Like, man, they can't do this. You know, the Big Ten's got at least one win in them. You know, so yeah, that's interesting. Let's go to 6-11s in the first round since we talked about how big the 6-11s are, being the highest upset field in the tournament. So yeah, Duquesne, BYU. I did pick BYU on that one. New Mexico, Clemson. I picked New Mexico. I know they're really good, and I don't think Clemson never does anything in the tournament. So I've never heard them do anything. Very, very, very rare, put it that way. Maybe sometimes they don't usually get very far. So I think New Mexico can get that one. Obviously, we already talked about South Carolina, Oregon. I got Oregon in that one. I think Oregon will beat South Carolina.
Yep. So do I. Yep.
And then
Got the same thing there.
And then I got NC State being Texas Tech. So like I said, the only 6th seed I have winning is BYU.
Yeah. NC State's been hot in that conference. They always give North Carolina trouble in that tournament almost every year. They knock them out almost all the time. So maybe I'm just from watching that recently watching that team play and win recently. But yeah, I have North Carolina State. I think they're the hottest team in the tournament right now. Another team that you don't want to play besides Iowa State.
Yes. Everyone's talking about Iowa State.
Yeah.
Some other interesting first round matchups. Let's see. Let's talk about Marquette. Marquette lost in the second round last year in the round of 32. I got them losing again in the round 32 to Florida. I got them win their first game against Western Kentucky. They should be able to get by that one. But I don't know if their point guard is back. He's been out for like a while. He didn't play in the Big East tournament. He didn't play like the last 3 or 4 games of the year, which is Shaka Smart is smart because he's not playing this guy because he knows he doesn't need to right now. So I thought Shaka Smart did a good job of not forcing him back. I think the reason why he didn't force him back is he wants him to play in the tournament, so he let him sit out for the past like 2 or 3 weeks. If he's back, they're really good. But if he's not back, they have a hard time. I mean, they're good, but teams can hang with them without him, put it that way. I've seen 3 or 4 games without him playing, and they have won some games, but I don't think that I love Shaka Smart. I think he's a great coach. I think Marquette is going to lose 2 times in a row in around 32. What do you think on that one?
Well, one thing we were talking about earlier about that 2-15 matchup. Let me touch on that first. The 15 seed has won the past. Well, there has been the 15 seed winner the past 3 seasons.
Yeah.
I'm not picking Western Kentucky to win, but out of the 4, I think this is the best chance of an upset.
Yeah, I agree.
This Western Kentucky team's very good, very good team, and I don't have them winning, but it wouldn't surprise me if they do. I have Marquette going all the way to the Elite 8 and losing to Houston. I like that team a lot.
I like them.
I
like them. I just don't know if they could do it without their point guard.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
If he's back and he's like back in game shape and he's not missing a beat, yeah, they could win. They have a good team. I don't think they have a whole lot of depth though. They have a couple guys off the bench, but I think they do struggle with depth. That's just my opinion, but they could go maybe 7, but you gotta go farther than that sometimes. I think they need to work on their depth. I think they need to recruit better with depth. That's just my opinion. Yeah, but that is the most intriguing matchup of the 215s because I think Tennessee is going to beat St. Peter's. Of course, St. Peter's has had. I mean, we're just talking about at the beginning of the show how they beat Duke in the Sweet 16 to get to the Elite 8 a couple years ago, but I don't think that Tennessee is way too good on defense.
Yeah.
I saw them just manhandle Duke last year, and they're even better this year than last year. Like I said, like I said before, I wanted to originally have Tennessee in my Final Four, but the problem is they've never been there. But can they finally do it? They might answer all the critics, including myself, but I just don't think they will. I got Tennessee losing to the Sweet 16 against Creighton, so yeah.
Yep.
I just don't think they will, man. Let me see if there's any other. Yeah, Arizona should beat Long Beach State. If they lose to Long Beach State, I'll be like, come on, Arizona, 2 years in a row. I don't think they'll do this 2 years in a row.
If they do that, I'll pick them never again. I think I said that last year.
Yeah, but they've made some really good runs. They've been to some Final Fours. They've been to some Elite Eights. They haven't won a national championship in like a while. Probably since Lute Olson, whatever his name was, their old coach, but like the mid 2000s maybe. But they still have had some deep runs, So they're like I said before.
And that guard from El Paso.
Yeah.
That guard KJ Lewis is with him coming off the bench. Yeah.
Nice. I remember you telling me about him.
Yep.
Yeah, Iowa State should beat the brakes off South Dakota State the way they're playing. If South Dakota State gives Iowa State a game with the way Iowa State's playing, I'll be shocked. But you never know. It is March Madness, but I will be shocked.
Yeah, Iowa State's. I mean, they could potentially be a #1 seed. I mean, the way they've been playing. I
Yeah,
mean, they're playing that high of basketball, that level of basketball right now.
yeah, they're 27. They're 27-7.
Yeah.
Um, Another interesting matchup that's a 7-10 seed in the same conference, the East, is Washington State and Drake. Man, I'm picking
Mm.
Wazoo because my son goes there, but Drake is no joke. That's
Mhm.
another team Dwayne mentioned last year that made it to round of 32 and almost made it to the Sweet 16. They're good. They're like one of those teams that we're saying, like one of these mid majors that
Yeah.
they stick together for all 4 years, and when they're
Right.
juniors and seniors, they are very good.
This,
And mid
yeah,
majors,
this might be
very
what we'll
good.
see this one. Huh? Yeah,
That's gonna be
Drake's
a
one of those
good game.
teams.
That's gonna be a close freaking game because 7-10 seeds are very hard. The 8 and 9s and 7 and 10s are very
Yeah,
hard to choose who's going. That's like almost
yeah,
like
they're evenly matched.
coin. So I think that's a good game. Um, the other 7-10 seed in the West isn't as good. Dayton, Nevada. I picked
Mm.
Dayton. I don't know anything about either one of those teams, but I know Dayton's been in the tournament a lot. That's why I picked them. Um, so I don't know too much about Dayton, Nevada, but I did pick Dayton.
I picked Nevada because I'm not sure where those games are being held, but from what I was reading, Dayton has to travel all the way to the west for that game, and that's going to be tough on
Yeah,
them.
that's gonna be
That's
hard. You're right.
practically
That's
a
a good
home game.
point. But I think
Yeah,
they get there a couple of days before the warm up, so it's not like they get
yeah.
there the night before. They might be used to it. Texas is either going to play Virginia or Colorado State based off the winner of the first four. I think they'll beat either one. Texas is playing better, but they're nowhere near as good as last year. Last year they made
Yeah,
a Elite Eight run, almost
yeah,
Final
yeah,
Four, but I think Texas has got the first one, and then Florida's playing either Colorado or Boise State, and I think, like I said, Florida's on fire now. Florida's going to win that one. So yeah,
yeah. Boy, it's gonna be an interesting first round now. It's usually the best part of the tournament. Upsets and
yeah.
man.
Let's talk about the 8-9s real quick, and then we'll close. So the 8-9s is Nebraska, Texas A&M, Texas A&M. I flip flop back and forth on this one. I picked Texas A&M, but originally I had Nebraska, but I think Texas A&M would get this one.
Yeah.
8-9 Utah State TCU. That's another one Dwayne mentioned. I had a hard time with that one too. That's probably the best 8-9 matchup.
Yeah.
I got
Utah
Utah State,
State's
but
very good.
TCU is no joke. TCU is
Yes.
no joke. But I got Utah State because I know they're very good too, like you said. And then the other 8-9 is Mississippi State, Michigan State. I got my boys, Michigan State, winning that. They got Tom Izzo.
Michigan State. Yes.
They haven't had quite as good as year as
Yes.
last year,
Yeah,
but
he's not gonna let him lose the
they're a
first
tough
round.
out, dude. They have really good guards. They always have good guards, which is big in tournament play, and they have a very athletic wing, which I was talking about. Purdue doesn't have. Their wing is
Mhm.
really good. Number 25, he's a beast. He's like a 6'7" guy that's kind of like a jack of all trades. You need a guy like that, you know. I think Michigan State's got it.
Yes.
And the other 8-9 is I can't find it. Oh, this is another hard one. Florida Atlantic and
Yeah,
Northwestern.
I'm looking. So I'm not sure.
I got Northwestern, but unfortunately for Florida Atlantic and San Diego State, I got them both losing in the first round after the runs they made to the Final Four last year. I know
Oh
it's
wow.
harsh to say, but
Mhm.
I still
Yes.
my whole thought process is I don't think they can do it 2 years in a row. Doesn't mean they can't win a game or two, but Northwestern is no joke. Also, like that's going to be another good game.
I have Florida Atlantic winning.
Yeah, they
Beating
could. I had a
Northwestern.
hard time picking all these 8-9s. I really did, man.
Yeah.
So like I said, I'm kind of a preference for the Big Ten, so that's probably showing. Well, I do have Nebraska losing, but all the other
Yeah.
all the other Big Ten teams I have winning. So maybe that's part of it. I got loyalty to the Big Ten and wearing my Michigan shirt. So,
Oh, there
but
you go.
Michigan, but I mean not Michigan, but Big Tens is they don't get well. They just always have at least one team in the Final Four, but the last several years they haven't really had one. Hopefully they'll get one back. They used to
Hmm.
always have at least one team in the Final Four, but the last several years they've been kind of stinking up the tournaments. I hope this year they get one back. But but I don't have them getting back in my bracket. Like I have Creighton, Florida, North Carolina, UConn, but hopefully I'm wrong, man.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. It's gonna be interesting.
All right, man. Well, this is another great show. Dwayne, you can join us next time. Sorry you cut out. He just texted saying his computer somehow completely blacked out. But Dwayne, you're welcome back for all the shows.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, we'll get some of the other guys back. You know, my good friend Dave Paul, football official, he loves March Madness. You know, he wants to be back. You remember Brandon? He wants to come back.
Yes.
Maybe Kevin too. But I know Brandon and Dave definitely want to come back. Maybe Kevin. So we'll have some more. So hopefully we'll have some more guests here next show. But thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Let us know who your picks are. Like I said, I got some crazy Final Four picks, but I'm kind of living on the edge this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Best part of the year, like you mentioned. Looking forward to it. I know I picked UConn, but go Tar Heels.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I'm with you because, you know, you can't always pick with your heart. I mean, you want your team to win, but you got to think logically and, you know, like, so I know I don't always pick Michigan every time either when they're in the dance. So, yeah, I want to, of course. I always hope I'm wrong if I pick them to lose, but yeah, you want your team to win, but you got to think logical, man, and matchups. So, there's one thing I forgot to mention before we close is my friend at work, who I mentioned did a flip of a coin and won the work tournament. He did a flip of a coin again today. And if he beats us 2 times in a row, I'm going to lose my crap. I told him today, you better not win. You better not win 2 years in a row. He did a flip of a coin during the lunch break. I couldn't believe it. He has Akron in the Final Four with his coin flip. I'm like, there's no freaking way. If he wins this thing by picking Akron, I will lose my crap. I'm like, you have Akron? Like, do you know anything about college basketball, bro? But
you should play a lottery ticket if he gets that.
Last year.
Sheesh.
I'm like, dude, if Akron, like, no, I know there's always Cinderellas, but it's not going to be no Akron, man.
That one. No.
You know, oh my God. But anyways, we'll finally close, but I had to mention that. I told him I wouldn't, I forgot, because sometimes he watches this. Sam, I love you, but you're crazy, man. But you won it last year. Oh my God. But all right, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you next week, man.
Yes.